When we think about how activists use new technology in their social movements, there are a couple of themes to keep in mind. First of all, they use popular, commercially available technology. Second, they usually use the new media in conjunction with the old media. Third, when they start to use the new technology, they have to develop new techniques and tools for making it effective. And finally, for activists, information is often their major asset, like capital and ammunition are to other groups. So to illustrate these themes, first of all, that they often use commercially available technology. When we look at Taiwan and how opposition politicians used cable television, news programs, and talk shows to get their views across, we have to remember that cable television became popular in Taiwan in the 1980s and 1990s because people wanted more entertainment. They wanted alternatives to the state-run television programs. So really the driving force behind the building out of the cable infrastructure was a purely business commercial one. And later, once it was established, opposition politicians used it to great effect. To illustrate the second theme, that activists often use old technologies and old media in conjunction with new media. If we go back to the 19th century and examine how protesters used the public telegrams to express their views to Empress Dowager Cixi when she placed Emperor Guangxi under house arrest, what they did with the public telegrams is they delivered the public telegrams to newspapers. Newspapers reprinted them and redistributed them throughout the major cities in China. So here we have an example of how activists were successful in using the latest technology, the telegram in late 19th century, and combine it with the distribution mechanisms of the newspaper. The third theme we wanted to look at was how new tools and techniques get applied in the Philippines in the 1990s. Short messaging service was very popular with cell phone subscribers, and it became a very common way of getting news and information to get text messages from groups you had signed up for. So when pressure on President Estrada started to build up, when evidence of his corruption started to become public, that kind of news circulated by SMS on cell phones. And soon thereafter, when protests started to organize, cell phones became a major way of letting people know where to congregate and how to prepare. So the tools and repertoire developed for sending news around by cell phones set a foundation for protests to be organized by mobile phones. The final theme is how information is used as a major asset by activists, much like capital or ammunition are by other groups. A good example here is the international campaign to ban landmines. The activists in this case succeeded in getting an international treaty signed by many countries committing themselves to stop or reduce their use of landmines. In order to get this treaty enforced, what the activists did was they collected information through their large network of NGOs all over the world, and on an annual basis published a report that assessed whether the signatory countries were living up to their commitments. In the first year, they found that many countries were not, but after repeated reports in subsequent years, compliance got much better. So remarkably, a bunch of activists that really had no legal enforcement power really contributed to countries complying to their international obligations.